For more on both of these cases, I want to bring in attorney Deborah Blum. Deborah, a very busy day in court. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's start with Epstein. This isn't the first time he has faced accusations of having sex with minors, but the last time he faced a relatively, we didn't see a lot of accountability. Does it look as if this time it could be different?
Well, what's very interesting here is that his 2007 or 2008 deal, he was indicted federally, and then he got to plead guilty to a state charge, and then he became a sex offender as part of that deal. But that is said to have... that should not allow him to be prosecuted for any crimes that transpired in Florida. If you review his current indictment, they are charging him for alleged sex acts that occurred in Florida. So what I think the appropriate thing here is that he should only be charged for things that occurred in New York, not anything having to do with Florida, because his prior plea deal, which reduced it from a federal indictment to a state plea, said that they can't bring up anything during that time period. And this indictment alleges between 2002 to 2005, and that should have been covered by his previous plea.
Deborah, what else do we know about Epstein? Is he considered a flight risk?
Well, that's a very interesting question. When you look up federal law about bail hearings, if somebody has a prior sex conviction and it's a sex crime, there's a rebuttable presumption that they should not have bail. So it makes it more difficult and easier for the prosecution to say that he should not be released on bail. But again, we have to focus on the fact that these accusations are from 2002 to 2005. He is a registered sex offender, so there must be some conditions that he's complying with. So arguably, his defense is going to say that he hasn't done anything wrong since his prior plea deal, and that he is not a flight risk. The defense attorney has already presented a bail package, which is what you do in federal court. If the prosecution agrees to bail, they the defense and the prosecution put together a bail package, and the defense has already offered one here. It's just in this specific case, because it's a sex crime, the prosecution has stronger grounds to stand on to say no bail. We also know that he has a private jet, which interestingly enough is called the Lolita Express, and most of us know about the book Lolita, the fascination of Humbert with underage Lolita, 12 years old.
Wow.
So I just think the prosecution probably used that here too.
Let's talk a little bit about, we heard in Mola Lenghi's piece, the connection. There are a couple connections between Epstein and President Donald Trump. What connects those two during Epstein's 2008 case?
Well, what's interesting is that it's not just President Trump. President Clinton has been mentioned here as well. We know that Clinton went on his private jet. He issued a statement saying he went on his private jet. And the issue that people are taking with President Trump is that Acosta was the AUSA who now works on Trump's team, and they're saying that he was the one that gave this deal. But what happens in any federal case or even a state case, when you do get a deal, there are so many people that have to sign off on that deal. So I think that the difference here is that that was then, and this is now, and after the Me Too era, we're a lot more stringent and strict on sex crimes, and also the DOJ is investigating the actual plea deal, and what they're saying is that the victims were not asked about the sentence or the plea deal that Epstein received. In my experience as a defense attorney, I investigate and oftentimes do speak to the alleged victims, and they'll say that the prosecution didn't even contact them. So I think that that's an inappropriate ground for them to be attacking this plea deal.
Well, is it possible then that this deal will be re-examined?
I don't know exactly what they're looking to do. I think that they're going to use the current charges to zealously prosecute.
All right.
And I think it's inappropriate that they would be allowed to use anything that happened in Florida against Epstein.
All right, Deborah, let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about Kevin Spacey's case now. First of all, let's just talk about this missing cell phone. What is going on there?
Well, it's very strange. As a defense attorney, you get a copy of the police paperwork, and here it said that the cell phone was turned over, but the police officer didn't make any documentation about it until 3 months afterwards. Typically, they're supposed to do it right after they're at the scene and they go back to the precinct, or if they're at the precinct, they're supposed to do the paperwork then. So that's strange to begin with. Then we have the alleged victim denying taking the fifth, not wanting to talk about whether anything was deleted from the phone, not wanting to talk about just pretty much anything. So it seems like he doesn't want to cooperate at this point.
So what does that do for the prosecution's ability to move forward with the case? As you mentioned, he's pleading the fifth.
Well, he's pleading the fifth about the phone, so he didn't want to engage in questioning about that. So the judge is not going to allow him to testify to that. The judge would allow him to still testify about the incident itself, but it doesn't seem like he wants to do so. So it seems like to me that this case is ultimately going to have to be dismissed.
So we saw that the accuser dropped a second civil case against Kevin Spacey about a week ago, and then we heard that the accuser is on this emotional roller coaster. Is this all blowing up?
It seems like to me that there are probably reasons that Kevin Spacey could have been gone after for not this specific incident. You know, other people have come forward and he said that they did X, Y, Z to him. This one had many flaws from the start, so I think that they're catching up. There were a lot of questions. There was a lot of doubt to begin with here, and I think that the prosecution should not have gone forward in this particular instance.
That missing cell phone, Deborah. That's interesting. All right. Thank you so much for breaking both cases down. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.